Hi everybody, and welcome to NorCal Slot Car Scene. Today we're going to talk a little bit about tire truers and a new tire truer that's been on the market a little while, but I just had the chance to get one. So in terms of tire truers, there's a couple different styles that are on the market. The Hootie style, which uses a counter-rotating drum, is more the traditional style. The benefits to it is the counter-rotating drum, in my opinion, does the best job of actually truing tires. However, you cannot do more than one tire at a time. And in the past, you've had to go to the sliding plate style of sanding or truing machine, which allows you to put a whole axle assembly in the unit and true two tires at once, or in the case of Scalextric or Carrera wheel assemblies, it allows you to true those assemblies without taking the tire off the axle. Recently, I was able to get a new tire truer, and it's called the GNS Tire Grinder. The GNS Tire Grinder has the features of both in that it uses counter-rotating drums, and it will take a whole axle assembly, whether it's just two tires or a Carrera or Scalextric axle assembly. The GNS Tire Grinder has quite a few features, but you can read them all here. I'm not going to go through them all, but the ones that stood out to me are that it's very easy to replace the drums because one of the features on this, you can change the drums quite easily. There is an indicator knob that helps you in terms of repeatability and setting tire diameter and getting a second set of tires to the same diameter. And it uses the standard 32nd scale bushings that snap right into the axle carrier. So it's a very easy machine to use. So let's take a look at it a little bit more in depth. Here's the completed unit, and you can buy this fully assembled. You can buy a complete kit, which are the printed parts. This is a 3D printed unit, so 3D printed parts and all the hardware, which includes the motor. You can buy the hardware only if you want to print your parts at home, and the hardware kit, as I said before, includes the motor. And you can buy the printed parts only if you have the hardware. I got the complete kit because I don't have a 3D printer, and the hardware, although not hard to source, there's a lot of little different parts, so it's just much easier to get this as a hardware and printed part complete kit. When you assemble this kit, there's basically three different pieces or assemblies. This is the base plate. The four uprights you see there slide into the unit and then are captured with screws. So that's the first assembly. The second assembly is the sanding drum assembly, which has the two sanding drums as well as the pulley that goes straight to the motor. You can see here the hardware included in that includes nuts. There's an acorn nut on the end to hold the whole thing together when you get it assembled, as well as ball bearings. Here's the pieces for the axle assembly. And as you can see, the arms are there. One is upright on the top right, and I've laid one flat on the left. There's another 1/4-inch bolt with ball bearings that holds the whole thing together. And so those are the three assemblies that you're going to build kind of individually before you actually put the unit together. Couple of little notes. I'm not going to go into the complete details on building this. There's a very comprehensive video on YouTube, which I'll link later, that goes through each individual step. But I'm going to go over a couple of highlights and things that I found kind of interesting, or you might, if you try to build this without instructions, you definitely want to think about things like this. One, the two bearings you see that go on the upright, they need to be spaced properly. And there are shims and extra shims in the kit so you can get this spaced properly so the bearings fit right in the uprights with no slop or no free play at all. After you get the three assemblies done, the first assembly you're going to put in the machine is the axle carrier assembly, and that simply bolts in. You see the caps on the left there. It took me about 2.5 hours to put this together from start to finish, having never seen it before, so it's an evening project. Once you get the axle carrier assembly on, the next thing you're going to do is take the drum, the standing drum assembly, and insert it through the O-rings there and put it in place, and then you're going to have a fully functioning unit. You see on the left, the axle carrier has springs in it, and what those springs do is allows the left bearing to, for lack of better terms, float, and it's captured by a bolt. What that does is allow you to set the axle in the drum assembly and the axle in the axle carrier assembly, which actually holds the tire you're going to true, and move that up and down so you can get those two axles perfectly parallel to each other. What they call that in the GNS Tire Grinder video is tramming. One of the concerns I had before I got this unit, because it's a 3D printed unit, is screwing the metal screws or the bolts into plastic. Would the threads hold, and would this thing really work in be something that will last for quite a while. And my concerns were not a problem because all the pieces that need to be tightened down, there's actually a square nut that's applied or inserted into that piece. So when you screw these bolts together, you're screwing metal to metal. There are very few pieces where you're actually screwing into plastic threads, and those pieces are where there's no strength needed. One minor thing, if you're putting this together for the first time, is there are two drum assemblies, and they're different. You know, from a distance they look the same, and they are actually the same, but they're a little bit different because they go on the axle assembly with nuts on one side and not on the other. So the drum on the left has a recess for the bolt. The bolt will go right into that. The drum on the right has no recess at all. So keep in mind that there are two different drum assemblies. One other thing that I noticed is when I tightened the acorn nut on the drum assembly, I just did it finger tight because I didn't think there was more than that was necessary. And when I spun the unit up for the first time, the acorn nut came off. It was my fault. I didn't tighten it down. But what I did is when I took it off, I did put a little bit of Loctite on that. If you put it together properly, it's not needed, but it is kind of a safety feature in terms of keeping this unit together. So I think it's a good idea. One of the other features about this machine, it uses standard 1" by 1" sanding sleeves that are easily sourceable. The unit, when you get it, comes with 120 grit sanding sleeves, and you can get coarser or finer depending on what you need for the tires that you're truing. In terms of pricing, as I said before, you can get this multiple ways. You can get the complete unit ready to go, which is available through 132slotcar.us. You can print it yourself from Printables. Just search for Mr. Flippant on Printables, and you can find the files there. You can download and print your own. Or if you go to the site from Greg Gaub, who's the builder of this unit, this site will give you the information in purchasing, whether you want to purchase the parts, the hardware, everything ready to go, other than the completed unit, which is available through 132slot. As I said before, there's a complete instruction video on building this unit on YouTube under the Greg Gaub YouTube channel. So it's very comprehensive. The unit I have is a newer model, which is what you would get if you're purchasing a new one, and some of the pieces are not quite the same, but all the principles are the same, so it's very easy to use the video and step by step. The video is about 45 or 48 minutes long, so in theory you could probably build this unit in less than an hour. So that's the GNS tire grinder. That's a quick overview. This is part one of a two-part video. Next week I'll be doing the initial setup, showing you how to do the tramming and getting the unit ready to actually operate. And then we'll true a single tire, which is the way I like to true tires, as well as truing a complete Carrera front axle assembly to show you that that can be done. So you have the benefits of both types of tire truers here. The counter-rotating drum, as well as the sanding block, which allows you to do a whole axle assembly. So that's it for now. This is Jim Rose with NorCal Slot Car Scene, and thanks for watching.